The night was quiet but not peaceful. The stars shone brightly above Samuel Carter's small farm, and the sound of horses surrounded the house like a soft but strong heartbeat. 100 Apache riders had set up camp around his land, their quiet presence felt in every shadow. Samuel sat on his porch with a lamp beside him. He could hear the soft voices of the Apache people in their language. They spoke with calm strength like people who trusted their land. Inside the house, Tala slept beside her father's people, wrapped in a warm blanket. The leader, Tala's father, sat a short distance away from Samuel, silent but watchful. Samuel's mind was full of thoughts. He had only tried to help a hurt girl. He had not planned to become part of something larger. But he could feel it now. The future between the settlers and the Apache people might be decided here on his small farm. The leader finally spoke, his deep voice steady. "You are brave to help my daughter," he said. His English was slow but clear. "But this land is not simple. People do not trust each other." Samuel nodded. "I know, but I did what I thought was right. She was hurt. I could not leave her alone." The leader looked at the stars for a moment before answering. "Kindness is not weakness," he said softly. "But kindness has a price." Samuel understood. There would be consequences. People in the settlement might not be happy that he had helped the Apache girl. And the tribe might not fully trust him either. He was standing between two worlds. "We will not hurt you," the leader said. "But others may not be like you. Some do not want peace. They want to take. They do not listen." Samuel felt a quiet chill in his chest. "I know," he whispered. The leader gave a nod. "Tomorrow we will talk more. For now we watch." Samuel looked out at the riders. They were sitting calmly, their horses resting but their eyes always alert. They were not an army of anger. They were guardians. Their silence had power. The next morning the sun rose slowly, turning the fields gold. Samuel opened his door and stepped outside. A soft mist floated over the river. Tala was already awake. She stood near her father, her arm still wrapped but stronger than yesterday. When she saw Samuel, she smiled shyly. Samuel smiled back. It was a simple moment, but it meant something. The leader walked toward Samuel, his steps firm. "Today," he said, "we speak not only of yesterday. We speak of tomorrow." Samuel nodded. He was ready to listen. They sat near the porch on wooden chairs. A few riders stood nearby, silent but respectful. The leader told Samuel about their tribe. For many years, the Apache people had lived by the river. The land gave them everything: food, water, shelter. But now more settlers were coming, building fences, cutting trees, changing the land. "They do not ask," the leader said. "They do not speak. They just take." His voice was calm, not angry, but his eyes were filled with weight. "Our people see this. They do not want to lose everything." Samuel listened carefully. He understood their pain. He had seen how some settlers treated the land as if it belonged only to them. He did not agree with that. "I don't want that," Samuel said honestly. "I only want to farm. I respect this place." The leader studied his face, searching for lies, but he found none. Samuel was telling the truth. Later that day, something unexpected happened. From the south road, a group of settlers appeared. They were on horseback, their faces tense and their hands gripping their reins. Samuel recognized them. They were from the nearby settlement. Toby, Samuel's farm dog, barked loudly, sensing the change in the air. The Apache riders turned their heads in one smooth motion. They did not move their horses, but their presence became even stronger. The settlers stopped a short distance away. Their leader, a tall man named William Hanks, raised his hand. "Samuel," William called. "What's going on here? Why are they here?" Samuel stepped forward. "They're not here to fight," he said clearly. "They came because I helped a girl. She was hurt near the river." William looked around at the Apache riders. 100 of them around your house is not nothing," he said. His voice was not angry, but it carried fear. "This looks like trouble." Tala's father stepped forward. The two groups looked at each other with caution. The air grew heavy again. "They are not here to fight," Samuel repeated, his voice calm but strong. "They came for their daughter. She is safe. That's all." William looked at Tala. She stood close to her father, her dark eyes steady. She did not speak, but her presence said everything. One of the settlers whispered something to William. Samuel saw fear spreading among them. Fear was dangerous. Fear could turn calm moments into storms. He had to act fast. Samuel raised his hands again, palms open like the night before. "Listen to me," he said to William. "If there is no trust, there will only be fear. If there is fear, everyone will lose. But we have a chance. We can talk. We can work together." William hesitated. The Apache riders stayed silent. The leader's eyes were on Samuel now. He was watching carefully, weighing every word. Tala took a step forward. She placed her hand gently on her father's arm, then looked at Samuel and nodded. Her father understood her silent message. She trusted him. The leader finally spoke. "We do not want war. We want respect." William lowered his hand slowly. He looked at Samuel, then at the Apache leader. "Respect goes both ways," he said carefully. Samuel saw hope forming in the air, fragile but real. For the next few hours, both sides stayed on the land. Samuel became the bridge between them. He translated simple words, explained simple ideas. He talked about the river, the fields, and the need for understanding. The Apache leader spoke about their traditions, their respect for the land, and their wish to live without being pushed away. William and his men listened. It was not easy. Old fears did not disappear in one day, but words were being spoken, and no one had lifted a weapon. Tala sat near the porch, her eyes bright. She saw something she had never seen before, two sides listening to each other. Samuel used simple words. He explained how everyone could share the river fairly. He suggested marking areas for farming and areas for the tribe, so no one would cross the other's boundary without asking. He talked about respect, water, and trust. The Apache leader nodded slowly. William crossed his arms but said nothing. The idea was new, but it was not foolish. In the afternoon, a rider came rushing from the hills. He was not Apache or settler. He was a messenger from another settlement. His horse stopped quickly in front of them. He spoke in a breathless voice. "Bandits are coming," he said. "A group of raiders. They're moving fast. They've already taken food from the southern farms. They might come here next." Samuel felt his chest tighten. Bandits. They were not part of any tribe or settlement. They took what they wanted and cared about no one. The Apache leader's eyes hardened. William's men looked worried. For the first time, both sides faced a common problem. "They'll be here by night," the messenger said before riding off to warn others. Samuel looked at Tala's father, then at William. "If we stand apart," he said, "they will take everything from both of us. But if we stand together, we can protect this land." William hesitated. He looked at the Apache riders, then at Samuel. Finally, he nodded slowly. "We'll need a plan," he said. The leader of the Apache tribe also nodded. Then we planned together. As the sun lowered, both groups worked side by side. The settlers moved wagons and placed lanterns. The Apache riders positioned their horses quietly. Samuel guided them to set strong positions around the fields and the riverbank. He was not a soldier, but he understood the land better than anyone. He showed them where the ground was soft, where the river bent, and where the bandits might enter. Tala walked beside him, her arm wrapped but her spirit strong. She carried water to the riders and settlers alike, and no one pushed her away. She was a living sign of the bridge forming between their worlds. When the stars appeared, both groups stood ready, not against each other, but beside each other. Hours passed. A cool wind blew over the fields. The riders waited quietly. The settlers held their breath. Toby lay at Samuel's feet, ears up, ready. Then, faint in the distance, came the sound of approaching hooves. The Apache riders moved like shadows, alert but calm. Samuel felt his heartbeat quicken. This was the moment that would test everything. But something happened Samuel had hoped for. Before the raiders could get close, they saw the glow of many lights and the shapes of many people waiting together. Not a divided land, a united front. The raiders stopped at the edge of the hill. Samuel could hear their horses breathing, but they did not come forward. They had expected an easy target. They had not expected strength born from trust. After a tense silence, the raiders turned their horses and disappeared into the night. The threat passed like a shadow. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Tala laughed softly. It was a small, bright sound in the cool night air. Her father smiled faintly. William let out a long breath. Samuel looked at both sides and felt something warm grow inside his chest. The settlers and the Apache riders had stood together. Not as enemies, not as strangers, but as people protecting the same land. The leader stepped toward Samuel. This night, he said, your farm became more than a farm. It became a place of understanding. William nodded slowly. Maybe, he said. This is how peace begins. Samuel looked at Tala. Her eyes shone like the stars above.
He smiled softly.
Maybe, he said, it starts with one small act of kindness. The sun was setting slowly behind the red hills, painting the sky with colors of orange and gold. Samuel Carter stood on the porch of his small wooden house looking at the fields. He was a simple farmer, living on the edge of the frontier. His land was quiet, wide, and lonely. The only sound he heard most evenings was the soft wind moving through the wheat and the distant call of a night bird. Samuel was not afraid of silence. In fact, he liked it. After years of hard work, he had learned to live with the land. He grew wheat, corn, and beans. He built his own fences, fixed his roof, and cared for the animals. He liked honest work. He liked the way the air smelled after a good rain. But deep in his heart, he also knew this land was not just his. It belonged to many before him. People in the nearby settlement often spoke in whispers about the Apache tribes who lived beyond the river. They said the tribe was proud and strong, living close to nature and protecting their land. Most settlers stayed away from their territory. They did not know them. They did not try to understand them. Samuel, however, did not like fear. He believed respect could build bridges where fear could not. That evening, after finishing his work, Samuel decided to walk down to the river to check the water level. The river was important to him because it watered his crops. As he walked through the field, he noticed something unusual. There was a shape lying near the riverbank, half hidden in the tall grass. He stopped and looked carefully. The shape was not an animal. It was a person. Samuel hurried forward. As he got closer, he saw a young girl, no older than 15 or 16. Her clothes were traditional, decorated with simple beads and patterns he recognized from the Apache tribe. Her long black hair was wet, her face pale, and there was a deep bruise on her arm. She was breathing, but weakly. Samuel's heart beat faster. He looked around carefully. The land was quiet. There was no one else. He understood the risk. If the tribe found out he had taken one of their people without permission, they could misunderstand. But leaving her here alone was not something he could do. He knelt beside her and gently touched her shoulder. She opened her eyes slowly, fear flashing in them. But when she saw Samuel's face and tired, kind, and calm, she stopped struggling. You're safe, Samuel said softly. I'll help you. She did not understand his language fully, but she understood the tone of his voice. It was warm, not threatening. He carefully lifted her up in his arms. She was light, and he carried her back to his house with slow, steady steps. Inside the house, Samuel placed the girl on his bed. He lit the lamp and took out clean cloth and water. He washed the dirt from her face and hands, then wrapped the bruise on her arm with gentle care. She winced but did not cry. She was brave. Samuel respected that. As the night grew darker, she whispered a few words in her language. Samuel did not understand, but he nodded, letting her know she was safe. He gave her warm water and a soft blanket. His farm dog Toby sat near the bed, watching her quietly as if he understood everything. Samuel sat on a chair beside her. He thought about what might have happened to her. Maybe she fell near the river. Maybe she got lost. Maybe something else happened in the forest.
He did not know.
What he did know was that tomorrow might bring trouble. By midnight, the girl was sleeping. Her breathing became steady. Samuel stood outside looking at the stars. The night sky was wide and full of silver lights. It usually brought him peace, but tonight the air felt heavy. The quiet had a different weight. He could feel it. Something was coming. The next morning, Samuel woke early. He made a small fire and cooked porridge. The girl, still weak, sat up slowly. She looked around with wide eyes, still unsure of where she was. Samuel smiled and handed her a bowl. She hesitated but took it. She ate quietly. "What's your name?" Samuel asked gently. She placed her hand on her chest and said, "Tala." "Tala," Samuel repeated with a kind smile. "I'm Samuel," she tried to say his name. It came out a little soft, but it made him laugh. The moment was small but warm. After breakfast, Samuel walked outside to feed the animals. The morning sun was bright and the sky was clear, but something in the distance caught his attention. A dark line was moving on the horizon. At first he thought it was wind stirring the dust, but the line grew wider and clearer. It was not wind. It was riders. Many riders. His heart started to beat faster. Samuel knew what this meant. The tribe had come. He ran back inside. Tala looked at him, her face pale. She had seen it too from the small window. Her hands shook slightly. "They're here," Samuel whispered. He did not say it in fear, but in understanding. He knew this was the moment that would decide everything. He stepped outside. The dust cloud rose higher. As the riders came closer, Samuel could see their faces. They were proud, strong, and serious. At least 100 Apache warriors rode in formation. Their horses moved with quiet power. No one shouted. No one fired a shot. It was silent like the calm before a storm. Samuel's small house stood alone on the land. The 100 riders surrounded it in a perfect circle, their horses standing tall, their eyes fixed on him. It was not anger he saw. It was something deeper: protection, suspicion, and strength. The leader of the riders stepped forward. He was tall, his long black hair tied back and his face marked with traditional patterns. His presence was calm but firm. He looked like a man who had seen many winters and carried the weight of his people's trust. Tala ran to the door but did not step outside. She whispered a few words in her language, her eyes filled with emotion. Samuel raised his hand slowly, palms open to show he carried no weapon. The leader's eyes narrowed, watching his every move. "You found the girl?" the leader said in broken English. His voice was deep and steady. "Yes," Samuel answered quietly. "By the river. She was hurt. I helped her." The leader's gaze shifted to the door where Tala stood. A soft murmur moved through the circle of riders. Samuel did not know what they were saying, but he felt the tension rise like heat from the ground. "She is safe," Samuel added quickly. "I meant no harm." The leader remained silent for a moment that felt like forever. Then he signaled with his hand and 2 riders stepped forward. They spoke softly to Tala. She nodded and pointed at Samuel. The leader looked at Samuel again. His eyes searched for lies but found none. Samuel stood still, his hands still open, his heart beating fast. He had no weapon, no army, no plan. Just honesty and hope. Finally, the leader dismounted. The circle of riders did not break. Every horse stood ready. Every pair of eyes was fixed on Samuel. The leader walked toward him slowly. His steps were heavy but calm. When he stood face to face with Samuel, the air between them felt thick and still. A man of the land and a man of the tribe, and 2 worlds meeting in silence. "You helped my daughter," the leader said. His voice was softer now. Samuel nodded. "Yes. She lives because of you." "Yes," Samuel said again. The leader's eyes softened just a little. "Then today is not a day of fighting." Samuel let out a breath he did not know he was holding. The tension in his chest eased slightly, though the circle of riders still surrounded the house like a wall. Tala stepped out of the door and ran to her father. He touched her hair gently, relief passing over his strong face like a quiet wave. But Samuel knew this was not the end. It was the beginning of something bigger. The tribe had come not only because Tala was lost. They came because trust between settlers and the tribe was thin as glass. A single misunderstanding could break it. Samuel stood tall, meeting the leader's gaze. "She is welcome here. I respect your people," he said carefully. The leader gave a small nod. "We will talk," he replied. "But many eyes are watching. Not only ours." Samuel did not fully understand his words, but he felt their weight. This was no simple rescue. It was a spark that could become a light or a fire. The leader turned to his riders and gave a quiet command. The 100 riders stayed in place, still and silent. The land around Samuel's house felt like a stage set for a story that was still being written. Inside, the farm dog barked softly. The wheat moved in the wind. The river whispered in the distance. The world had not changed, and yet everything had. That night, Samuel sat on his porch with a lamp burning softly beside him. Tala rested inside, safe with her father's people nearby. The stars above seemed brighter than ever, as if they too were watching. Samuel had always thought of himself as just a farmer, but now he was part of something larger, something that could shape the future between 2 peoples. He did not know what tomorrow would bring. But one thing was certain. The quiet life he once knew was gone, replaced by the sound of horses breathing in the night and the weight of new beginnings. To be continued in Part 2.